I have been doing cosplay before it was called cosplay. I have an extreme love for being able to wear costumes and doing superhero costumes and the sort. Been doing it for a long time now, so and I don't see any time it's going to stop or slow down. So I've just been having a lot of fun with it.
Common misconception about just like Black geek culture is that we're not here, and we definitely are. And I think the internet has been an important part of like helping us to connect and find each other, and also just kind of like proclaim our geekiness proudly and let other people know that we are here and we're here to stay and we've been here. So I think that again the most common misconception is that it's not a huge movement, if you want to call it that, and it really is. From writers and artists to cosplayers to just straight up geeky like Trekkies or Whovians or whatever your thing is. It's like we are here and interested in those things.
Black folk, we always cosplayed. Like it was never a time when we didn't. So I think that it's just now it's become more socially acceptable, probably more so for us as a community. And so yeah, because I remember even as a child going to the conventions and seeing Black folk cosplay. It's not like now we're just starting to do it. We've always done it, but I think now we're doing it and I think Black nerds or Black geeks, Black comic book lovers, we're more confident and secure in saying, yes, you can like comic books, you can cosplay and still be connected and attached to the community. Cosplay ain't stuff for white folk, which I think was a popular sentiment or idea when I was growing up.
We're even more comfortable talking about the decolonization of the Black imagination. We could talk about being educated and being free, being speculative, and it's not this disconnect between, okay, I'm this type of academic, I'm this type of smart, but I can't be a geek as well. Now our Black geekdom is cool, and it's a part of our, for example, my son today cosplayed as Miles Morales, the Black Latino flag, right? There was a time that wouldn't have been cool. Now there's a time where that is not only cool, but it's expected of the next generation to think of ourselves as these heroes, right? Who pioneer ourselves into the Afrofuture.
The interesting part about it was never about me being about where my surroundings was, because I was still allowed to grow and do whatever it is I saw fit that I wanted to do. I had no boundaries, I had no limitations. The only limitations I ever saw was in my mind.
My initial interest in cosplay was when I was a kid. I was fascinated with comic books and superheroes. I thought there was some noble about it, nobility about it, Knights of the Round Table, stuff like that. Basically had such an impact on me. It encouraged me to become a United States Marine because I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to do something heroic and everything, and it carried on throughout my life. Being a pro wrestler, being that bigger-than-life character in the ring, and being that character that a lot of people are like, oh, wow, what? And everything else. So it's been a lot of fun and it's opened a lot of doors for me. I end up becoming a comic book character and doing all these other great characters, and then being a host of Heroes of Cosplay on TV. So all those avenues of doing what I love to do and it carried on throughout my life basically was influenced by cosplay and reading comic books.
My original interest in cosplay originally stemmed back before when I was younger, when I was originally exposed to comic books by my uncle and his, they were in law enforcement, and his partner who was also deeply into comics. Instead of taking coffee breaks, they took comic book store breaks instead, and they were always purchasing all these comics. And after a while, they had a problem. the patrol car couldn't hold but so many comic books. So they said instead of taking them home where their wives would say, no, you can't, or this is taking up too much space, they said, well, just give them away. And they gave them away, and after a while, I started to sift through certain ones that I went and said, okay, I like this one. My brother, it didn't matter to him. It was a comic, so he read it, and I was like, I don't mind. And then certain ones, after a while, I started to hone in on. So my first exposure to comics was with Marvel Comics as a comic book, and then prior to that, not knowing it when I was younger, of course, I loved Wonder Woman, not knowing that she was in the DC world, but I loved her even more. So that was my first exposure to that. And then with the cosplay situation, I didn't realize that it was in the back of my mind that I wanted to. I just knew that I wanted to dress up, and it didn't have to be Halloween. I was like, it shouldn't have to be exactly on October 31st every year, once a year. I said, there's something else I think feel like I need to do with this. And then when I met my now husband, Smoke, that's when it all finally came together, and he helped encourage me to delve into the cosplay world. So, and then the rest was history after that.
Almost 10 years ago, a friend of mine took me to Baltimore Comic-Con, and I wore a costume, and it was something basic, and I just kind of got crazy with it. And before you know it, I'm like 300 to almost 400 costumes in of all different characters I've done, from fantasy, pop culture, horror, science fiction, comic books, you name it, TV, films. So I have a lot of fun with it because, as I've said before, we're like artists. Cosplayers are like artists. They bring those characters to life from what they see on film or what they see on camera. So basically, they're bringing a two-dimensional character in the third-dimensional world by becoming those characters. So to me, that's what cosplay to me is all about, and why I love so much getting into it.
My father, growing up in Barbados, reading was always big for me anyway. Like I always felt like there was these these larger than life characters that were able to take you somewhere. As cliche as it sounds, but so I grew up reading all kind of books, and mainly like fantasy, mythology, and that type of stuff. And comics was just another way for me to escape reality. I was super nerdy. Like most of my summers was spent in the library back in Barbados. And my dad used to draw, so he used to read comics religiously. And back then, the good thing about back then, growing up, was you read everything. I grew up reading Archie, like even Sunday comics like Dagwood, and those type of comic strips. Like it wasn't just this. It didn't have to be a specific thing. It was just as long as it was drawn and had a story to it, I used to read it. So he grew up reading comic books, and he used to draw a little bit. And I wanted to draw too. I was like, oh, that looked fun, and I just started getting more and more into it. But I think I would credit him for getting me really going with comics.
I've been reading comic books for about 25 years. Started when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I started buying them. There used to be this 7-Eleven, Circle K at one of the stores right by my apartment, and my mother used to actually give me $0.25 a day for lunch money. I'd save up, I'd have $1.25 at the end of the week and go buy a comic book. And that's kind of how I started buying comics. And just kind of got into it from there, and just kind of stayed into comics. And then my mother used to, when I used to take road trips and she wanted me to be quiet, this is back in the 80s, so there were no iPads and iPhones and all that, so she'd buy me some comics just to kind of keep me quiet, so I would read something on the road trips from North Carolina to Texas or vice versa. So that's kind of how I got into them.
Cosplaying is life. It's a lot of fun. I mean, you kind of bring your favorite characters to life, to more 3D than just the pen and paper, pencil and paper. It's just a good time. I mean, it's family. The cosplay community is just a big family. Everybody gets along, and I mean, I've seen people. Somebody says something about them on social media, and man, watch out, because cosplay family just like they got you back no matter what, and pretty much that's what it means to me. It's a really good time and family.
For me, as a cosplayer, it means that I get to step out of the everyday, usual routine of things, and then actually be able to become a different character. It's fun. It's role play, but at the same time, you get a chance to express your love for a certain character or characters, depending on what you do. And for me, it means to be able to kind of reach out and communicate with others in a way that I couldn't if we were just in a regular old environment. And I find that becomes a great stress relief because there is a great sense of community with cosplay.
Playing, I've been like seriously when I came here and I realized that this world that I belong, like I'm like, oh my god, I can do this, and like, you know, other people I can relate to, and they're like, you know, they're into it as much as I am. My first Comic-Con was here in Philadelphia, and it was like way back when it was in that bay. It was only like 2 days a week. 2 days of the week. Now it's like 4 days of the week. It's much more expensive, much more people. But yeah, when I first came here, and I was like, oh my god, I can, and I was able to also have access to comics. So it was great to see, to like kind of go back on the shows and see like, oh my god, look at the comics, what really happened, and all that, and manga too. I was able to get my hands on manga, and it's funny because earlier when you guys were talking about the Ninja Turtles, that's a show I loved as a kid, and I was like, I picked up the comics and I was like, oh my god, it's so much darker in the comics. Like,
it was kind of a weird journey because I initially started reading just some of the mainstream comics. So what initially first got me into it was I started reading X-Men and Batman. I never really was a Superman fan, but I became a big Batman head, and so I used to read Batman a lot. And that initially, I like this. This is good. And then I started reading X-Men. And then as I was reading X-Men, I kind of, that went over to Spider-Man and jumped to the Punisher. Just kind of, opened my world up to the various worlds of comics. Now, as far as black superheroes, I began to ask the question kind of early, like, where are the black folk? Just kind of funny, but to say, hey, where in the world are some of the black superheroes? And at the time, this is like 90, 91, so you did have black superheroes, not as much as today, but you did have them. And but you didn't have a lot of titles by themselves. So they pop up, in X-Men with Storm, and then maybe Black Panther will pop up in Fantastic Four, Captain America, or Blade may pop up here and there. So Falcon will pop up. So and I used to love to see them just kind of pop up, and they did pop up. But there were no back then. There were no they didn't have when I first started reading comics. I can't remember. I don't think any black superheroes at the time. Well, under Marvel and DC had their own title. Eventually Milestone will pop up and Spawn will pop up. But that came a couple years later. And then also too, what kind of hit it where I couldn't follow comics, some of the black superheroes like that. I was like 9 or 10, so I didn't have much money. So it's just kind of I could only afford maybe 1 or 2 comics at the time. So I kind of went with some of the bigger ones that I knew, some of the cartoons that were on at the time, which was X-Men, Spider, that kind of thing.
My name is Jennifer Williams. I'm an adjunct professor of Africology and African American Studies at Temple University. I did my dissertation research on Afrofutrism and the representation of Janelle Monáe and Sojourner Truth as technologists. I'm actually new to the cosplay community. I did not a lot, but I did a couple things of research on it, just in terms of like representation and what it means to basically embody a black superhero specifically. So cosplaying as an actual like action that I did myself was last week for the first time, and that was an experience because I'm usually very not open to doing things. Because I'm kind of an introvert, kind of hiding behind things. So it's kind of was interesting to take on a different persona and having people want to like interact with me. And it was kind of funny because since I have my doctorate, someone was like, because I cosplayed as Storm, and then someone was like, Dr. Storm. And I actually thought that was a pretty cool kind of thing. So I'm definitely thinking about cosplaying again.
My name is Brian Gregory. I'm also known as Be Wild Cosplay. I am a Gulf War Desert Storm vet. I'm actually about to be I'm 48 years old, believe it or not, and I started this oh so late. But anyway, that's the whole point of the beautiful thing about cosplay. Age does not matter. Your color does not matter. Your race, creed, ethnic division, divide does not matter. It's about embodying the character, people. But anyway, give you a little bit of short synopsis about me. I've been a pop culture uber nerd geek since I could crawl. My favorite superhero of all time would be Ultraman. After that, Superman. Wait, I know, right? Ultraman. Something that's Japanese, or Tohatsu as they would call it. Simply speaking, my introduction into things of pop culture kind of came vis-a-vis Godzilla. Yeah, the old film. And of course, George Reeves, Kirk Allen, the Superman series from back in the day. But if you had to ask me what made me cosplay, let me tell you like this. My mom and my father used to take me to Comic Cons back in the day, and I'm talking in the 70s. I actually originally came from Camden, New Jersey. Yeah, that's right, Camden, South Jersey. It's 1975. My mom, my dad, they used to take me. I met Lou Ferrigno there. I used to see a lot of people dress up, and then the interesting part about it was I used to say, damn, that looks real nice, that's real cool, but I never thought I could. And I had a real skewed thinking about that. Why? Because of my color. Yeah, right, short-sightedness. I used to let my color rule my guide of what I can and what I cannot do. Fortunately for me, I got past all that. I had about over 40 different characters I could do. And believe me, I always try to change it up, but the thing about it that I'm honestly going to tell you, it won't matter whether you were black, white, Chinese, whatever. Have your own variant, put your own mix to it. Your own spin, whatever that looks like to you. You don't necessarily have to be literally like Chris Reeves' Superman. Do your own version. Or be like him, it doesn't matter. But the thing is, just embody the character. Honestly, one other thing I will tell you about too is surround yourself around about a bunch of good-natured, good-minded, commonality-focused like individuals. Because when you're around a bunch of people that think like you do, see things as you do, it kind of works as a collective. You kind of feed off of that sometimes. You sometimes need that to keep you focused and keep you positive. Because sometimes you will catch some of the negative sides of cosplay. I'm talking more so about people who necessarily look at you maybe for your color, or maybe for your size, or maybe for the lack of definition of depth into your costume. Honestly, to me, these are haters. And let us understand one thing about haters, people. They're in everything we do. It does not matter. As a matter of fact, look at it like this. They must really have nothing to do with their lives if they're going to take all that time to point the finger at you. Right? So you must be on to something. So think of it like that. So the next time somebody tells you that you can't because of your color, your look, your height, you do more. Be the character. Embody the character. Be the best version of that individual that you know how to be. But most of all, have fun. This is Be Wild Cosplay.
When I came to America in like '93, I didn't really know about comic book conventions and stuff. But and to be honest with you, I forget what my first convention was attending. I think it was like a wizard convention. But I just used to go for fun. I didn't used to dress up on all that stuff. I just used to go and check. But my favorite spot was Artist Alley. You know, that was where all the new books were to me, and all the undiscovered artists. So I wanted to go there first and see how they were doing it. And then I started like doing conventions myself, like having a table, but it was like real small. It's like a convention the size of this room type of thing. And my first books were terrible, horrible looking back at them. You know what I mean? Like one of the first conventions I did too was 2005. It was the ETBOC convention, the East Coast Black Age Comic Book Convention. And I remember I found out about it like late, and I got together a bunch of like sketches, you know, and I started doing some new stuff. And I went to Staples, and I was there late, you know, copying and pasting, and then just like hand stapling each little book, and you know, set up and sold them. And now looking back, I'm like, why did people buy these? You know, like what were they thinking? But it got me going. It got me comfortable with selling, knowing what to sell and how to talk to people and stuff like that. So it was fun, you know, it was a good experience too. It was just like, you know, that feeling of here's someone looking at my work and looking to buy something from me is an amazing feeling. I think as an artist is always that, as an artist is this weird contrast, right? You want people to see your work, but then you're scared. And it's like, oh man, they're gonna like it? Should I put it out there? But then is that feeling of, you know, someone, oh, they do like it. So even though I'm at a convention and I'm smiling, I'm talking, inside I'm like, oh God. Oh God, they see all my mistakes. You know, there's always this fear that somebody's gonna be like, that's a fake, that's nonsense. So, but the East Coast Black Asian comic books, that was what changed my life and my way of thinking of conventions. Because before that, I never really gave a thought to the characters I was drawing, to be honest, and the people who were looking at my stuff. And looking back, I grew up drawing mainly Caucasian and Asian characters. And most of the conventions I went to, the majority of artists were white. The majority of people that attended were white. And it wasn't until I went to the ETBOC convention, and there's a lot of people of color, you know, and a lot of Nubian people. I don't say like black people. I feel that's too confining. That's limiting you to just a color. You know what I mean? I think we as people, we have a richer heritage. But so when I say Nubian, that's my way of saying black. But I realized there were these Nubian people that were looking at my art, and people that wanted to be like me for a change. And they were like, oh man, how'd you get into conventions? You know, how are you doing this? How did you draw this? And that was one experience that was mind-boggling. The other thing was the people who actually work for ETBOC. They challenged me in a way that I had never been challenged before, and they were like, well, Sean, why aren't your characters Nubian? Why don't your characters look like you? And I didn't have an answer for them. And I went home like equally inspired but depressed. And it was just like, you know, what am I doing? What's going on? You know, I took like an hour-long shower with a Brillo pad and just like, oh, I'm a terrible person. But it changed my whole way of thinking. And I started saying, why don't my characters look like me? Why don't I have a character from Barbados? Or actually, no, I won't say from Barbados. That was something that occurred later. But I was like, why don't my characters look like me or have like a Nubian heritage? And that set me on a new path.
I kind of grew up watching things like Thundercats and He-Man and She-Ra, so I've always been interested in like superpowers and, you know, cool weapons and fight scenes and things like that. And I specifically got into comics as a way to learn more about Storm, because up until I was about 11 or so, I'd never met a female black superhero. So I'd never seen anyone like in that realm that looked like me. And so I was about 11 or so when I was first introduced to Storm, and just as a way of learning more about her, I started to get more into comics, and I specifically started like reading regularly in high school, and I started my own comic book collection like my sophomore year of college.
A lot of misconceptions with the cosplay community. Like most people only pay attention if you have like half naked chicks, like, but like people work really hard in their costumes. Like it's a big group. Like there's really no judgment. There's a lot of friends. You meet so many people through it. Like just people think like you can't do it if you're not a certain body type or race or according to whatever character you do. But that's wrong. Like you could do whatever you want. With the cosplay community, you just meet so many amazing people. They're welcoming, and like you just go in, just walk around, people stop you like a million times for pictures, so you feel really good about yourself. But like the best part is the friendships you make. Like that is my favorite part. Just you meet so many amazing, accepting, talented people through cosplay.
For me, it means just, you know, escaping our reality. You know, it's having fun. You know, it's getting a chance to act like somebody that you wanted to be for such a long time. And to me, I just love it. I just love the art of it. You know, just the theatrics of it. You know, it's like you kind of get like a taste of being in the theater or whatever, you know, just acting out. I never had that before, especially when I was young. So cosplaying is kind of like a cheap way to get into it.
But as far as comics, black conventions, doesn't matter so much anymore, whether how people are perceived, because, you know, this is the 21st century, and you have the Schomburg Black Comic Book Day, ECBAC, MechaCon, you have this thing, BSAM, Black Speculative Arts Movement. You have so many different black comic book conventions out there. There's more than enough venues for black creators to get their stuff out. There's a certain cost and time cost to it and money cost to it, but we'll do fine. We just have to continue to create good comics and continue to deliver those in the appropriate formats, whether it be digital, face-to-face, because a lot of conventions are not necessarily made to make money, particularly for certain level cartoonists, because your name may not be that big. So, you know, you're not going to have a line stretching around the block to come buy $100 sketches from you. But you are able to interface with your audience and build an audience. Like I just did a workshop, you know, 2 people here, 1 person there who's interested in what I'm doing. They may be able to take that and take it further.
Well, I could say the first misconception, but I think that one is slowly changing in a big way, is that it's like if you like comic books, you're not black. Like it's a white art form. I never could understand that, and I used to it was almost like when I went to the comic book store, it was like I was buying drugs and selling, you know, it's I looked around, any black people see me, I went into the comic book store, and I'd see another black kid, and I'm like, you know, keep my head down, not looking, you know. So I think the idea that comic books isn't for black kids, I think is slowly kind of moving, you know, that myth or stereotype is kind of slowly devolving or has devolved, because, you know, anybody can enjoy comics. So I think that I'm glad to see, particularly, you know, now that you have like Facebook and Twitter where black nerds and black comic book lovers can talk and create those safe spaces. That to me is one of the biggest, because it just wasn't there for me when I was a kid. And I kind of felt like, dang, you know, I'm black, you know, I should like comics. So that I'm kind of I like to see. And I think the other thing is that you can't be, that comics are just for kids and that they only tell kids stories. And I'm telling like, nah, like if you read some comics, they're telling some, not only are they telling adult stories, I think today it's actually the opposite. Like I couldn't imagine being a 10, 11-year-old and trying to get into comics, because I think now they cater a little too much to adults. Because some things that are dealing with in the comics, they're dealing with some heavy issues from racism, sexism, homophobia, the marriage relations, divorce, I mean all kinds of war, like all these kinds of very adult themes. I'm like, yo, if I was 10, what would I know about, you know, Spider-Man getting a divorce? I'm like, this is totally above my head. So I think that I think is a misconception. That, you know, within comic books, it's just a kids medium, because it's not. And I think that, you know, there are a lot of great writers and artists that explore a lot of very, very important issues, particularly issues that are related to our, you know, black people in our community. I think I definitely noticed that among the black writers and the black artists, that they're going to explore some really, really themes that are important and that need to be discussed. So.
Challenges in general, just kind of as like a black girl geek, I think mainly just comes from other people's kind of like ignorance about, again, who likes comics. So, you know, I've had a couple like weird interactions at like comic book stores where, you know, the guy behind the counter will ask if I'm, you know, buying things for somebody else, or if I tell like a guy like, oh yeah, I'm into comics, you know, they immediately respond with like a trivia question. They, you know, want me to like prove my geek worthiness, which is, you know, weird, because I know if I was a guy and I said I like comics, they would have just said okay. So the fact that, you know, as a woman you have to then prove it is weird.
So some of the misconceptions that I see in cosplaying is particularly due to race. And so the idea is that Black people can't cosplay the, you know, various characters due to their skin tone being different than the characters they wish to play. And I think that, at least within the cosplaying community, is a horrible falsehood, because it's not about the race of the characters per se. It's kind of what they characterize. It's what they actually mean towards for the individual. And so if you want to be Goku because Goku represents strength and struggle and determination, then you as an Africana person should be able to wear that and pursue that interest. But because everything is racialized, particularly in the United States, they want to put people in boxes, which of course give white individuals a whole lot more freedom, even though if we go to the anime conversation, all those individuals are supposed to be Japanese. But since we interpret Japanese art form as being white, then white people believe that they can be anything while any other character can't, or even an individual cannot. And so those are one of the like myths that I definitely like am very interested in. Another mythology about cosplaying community is that it's just weird, or why are you doing it any other time than like Halloween or something like that. But once again, it is about that idea of representation. It is the idea about being free to embody other ideas, other characteristics than your normal life. And so I think that being enmeshed in reality, that a lot of particularly African American community people like do, that we always have to be real all the time, that the struggle is out there, that our oppression is real, and to go into a fantasy space is kind of being antithetical to what the actual reality of Black life is, I think is one of those things that need to be broken. Because embodying fantasy, embodying a different vision of the future is probably more conscious raising than a lot of people would give it credit for. Being able to know that you are not only how other people see you, but how you change your body, change your hair, change your clothing in order to become more than what other people see you as from just this kind of shell, then that takes a whole lot more than just, you know, being confined to what this reality gives us. And so to go beyond would definitely, I mean, we can utilize that as a step to go beyond even these racist characterizations that people put upon us.
That year, Wizard World, that was when it really took off. Wizard World 2010, I was cosplaying Batman, I was cosplaying Army of Two, I had did Kato from the Green Hornet. Yeah, that's right, I was Asian, and guess what? That wasn't the only time I was Asian. Definitely wasn't. But that just goes to show you, that's a testament right there. I'm a black guy playing an Asian guy, but guess what? It doesn't matter because I embodied the character. That's what it's about. You should remember that. All of you should remember that. Don't let nobody tell you what you can do, what you cannot be. Hell, if you want to gender bend a character or cross-dress a character, who cares? Do it. Have fun. Live your life, people, because life is short. It has an expiration date. Don't have the wish you coulda, shoulda moment. Get it done, be thankful, be blessed, stay positive, and don't be pressed. That's it. For the most part, it's about who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with a bunch of like-minded individuals, those individuals are always going to be there for you. They're going to lift you up, and you're going to build fostering relationships outside of cosplay. Because community as a whole, it can be a very, very interesting thing. It can be a positive thing. It can be a negative thing. Just like in any particular hobby that comes along, you will have cliques. You'll have a positive clique that's about, upliftment and ingenuity and just fostering good nature to everyone. And then you'll have those cliques that's like, oh, we're better than you because we look more comic accurate and we're more, and quote, that's a cute word there for saying you're not the right color. Ooh. But people, let's get real. It was a pencil, okay? It was drawn. It was drawn on paper. You turned it into a 3D image or became an image onto a screen. So the narrative is yours to create. Get over yourselves. Seriously. If anybody wants to be whoever they want to be, live your life, man. Live your life, young lady. 'Cause don't have those regrets. I did. I'm going to tell you like this. I literally wished I would have been doing this in my teens. I started this in my 40s. Right? I know. Y'all's like, well, shouldn't you be waiting for your AARP card? Right? You're right. I probably should be, but guess what? I don't subscribe to that. Not yet, anyway. But I say that to say this to you. That you want to do things that are going to be positive, uplifting things in your life. Sometimes you need that refill. Sometimes you need that charge. For me, cosplay has been that charge. It's my refill. It kind of resets my ongoing point. It refills my cup. And I appreciate it for what it is because it allows me to be around a bunch of like-minded people in a like-minded atmosphere where it's just so cool. Where everybody can appreciate the effort that you put forth in your costumes. Give it a try. I guarantee once you start it, you probably will continue.
Oh, is he vegan?
Teresa.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were filming.
No problem.
I didn't know he was filming.
Damn, but was that a narrative or what? I just ran on and ran on and ran on and ran on and ran on. But hey, it's fun.